Hello, my YouTube family and friends. I pray that everyone's having a beautiful, blessed 4th of July, Friday. If you have not said it already, let's say it together. Thank you, Jesus, for another day. It is indeed a blessing to be alive, y'all. Thank Him for another day. He woke us up this morning and started us on our way. He didn't have to do it, but He did it. Protected us even in our dreams. He just placed a shield of protection around us all, and it's a blessing. It really is to be alive. But I try not to be on here too long. And again, I pray that you all are having a beautiful, blessed 4th of July. I hope some of you all are off, maybe some are not. But in any event, I pray that you enjoyed your day. Me and my youngest son was off today, so today's just been a rest day, just relaxation. I love it. I was gonna try to go somewhere earlier today, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna rest. God want me to rest, and so I did prepare a meal for my big children, and just been lounging, watching a few movies on TV, on YouTube, and then, just been, I just started some laundry, start doing laundry, because Friday is usually when I do my laundry. But anyway, just been resting and, just enjoying, because it is indeed a blessing to have a job and then to be off, have an off day. I love it. So as I was mentioning to a lady, it's been a few days ago, she was asking me, she said, you got any plans for, she was talking about today, and I said, nope, I don't have any. I said, I'm just gonna rest. And she said, oh, she said, you must don't have grandchildren. I said, no, actually I have 3. I said, but they live in Tennessee. And, back in the day, y'all, it was a big deal for this holiday for me. And, the people I was around, they still doing the same stuff. But now, my children said, Mama, you just don't want to do nothing. I said, it ain't that I don't want to do nothing, children. I said, that stuff no longer serves me. I said, that doesn't do anything for me anymore. And when I was around the people who did it, I was just mainly there, because when we were in Tennessee, somebody would, at the last minute, like maybe last week, they was mentioning, oh, I'm gonna have a get together at my house for 4th of July. So they would invite, they get some ribs going, some hot dogs, hamburgers, and either they do, had a little get together at their house, or they have it at the park or lake or whatever. So, that's just it's what we always was accustomed to. But then, we had started going over when the children were a lot younger. We would just go over my parents' house, which they only lived a few minutes from us. We just go over their house, and my dad, he would grill out, like he would always grill out, like last night, he would grill out the day before. And then today, he would finish up early this morning, and they'll call me and say, food ready, and I take some drinks over there, paper plates, whatever, that's just what we did, and just watch movies, watch TV, stay over their house for, wouldn't get over there to probably 2 or 3, and stay over there to 7 or 8 o'clock. And depending on when the 4th of July fell on, if tomorrow was a weekday, I had to go to work, me and my late husband, the next day. So, we get on back home, but, that's just what we did. It was family time, but, it really wasn't all great times. But in that time, in that time frame, or in that time that I was in, I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, so it was all good for me. It was just something to do, and I enjoyed, going over their house and stuff, spending time with them. But a lot of stuff they said and did I didn't care for. And then it started getting kind of humdrum, boring, because I'm like, okay, after eating was the highlight. My mom, she make a big old, we had ribs, hamburgers, hot dog, whatever. And as the children got older, the meal started slimming down. And so she'll make a dessert or whatever. We had ice cream, whatever. So it was fun. But like I said, everything serves its purpose. And that's what I was trying to tell them. I said, I'm 51, but as I'm becoming older, y'all, I'm not boring. I love to have fun. I think I'm a fun person. But what do I consider fun? What do I consider a good time now? I like spending time with Jesus. I like being around people who like to talk about Jesus, witness about Jesus. I like being around people who, you know, they ain't got to cuss and drink and fight and do all that just to say they having a good time. You know, that's just how I am now, you know, which I never did any of those things, but I was always around people who did it. So, you know, but like I said, today has really been a blessing. I was been looking forward to this day for a week or so now. And I was like, thank you, Lord, for off day. I love it. I love it. And it seemed like it came kind of fast, too. But anyway, yeah, we ain't been doing that. We just been resting. But I want to read Hebrews 13th chapter, verse 4. And it reads, marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure. For God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. And again, that was Hebrews 13th chapter, verse 4. So, it was just in my spirit, y'all, to talk about this. I'm trying not to be on here too long, but about cheating. You know, a lot of times, you know I've been around people, even when my late husband was living. We was married 21 years, but you know, I would hear on the job, or be somebody in the family, they cheated on their spouse, or not even really. Sometimes it wasn't even their spouse. It was just who they had been in a relationship with. And so, word get around or whatever. And, I just think about that. And I used to tell my late husband, I said, that bothers me. I said, and I was telling the lady I had brunch with, I think it's trying to storm outside. I had told the lady that I had brunch with this past Sunday, I said, that really bothers me when I hear about that. I said, some people laugh about it and say, well, that person didn't want to be with that person anyway, and so that was an open door. No, that's not how it works. And it's very, I really don't like it when somebody's married, but it don't matter if they married or if they just boyfriend, girlfriend, it don't matter, or they've been going together for a while. It does not matter. You have committed yourself to that person. Y'all been together for a while, and I want to mainly just focus on marriage, because like I said, I shared a video about my mom and my mom and my stepfather, how they came to be, and it was because of cheating. And I sat my children down, when we moved here, and I told them, everything that happened, and they was like, ooh, and I said, they said, Mom, that's a lot of information. I said, yeah. I said, but I want you to be aware of what really, this is what goes on. And I said, a lot of times people don't want to talk about the uncomfortable stuff. They don't want to talk about the ugly stuff, the stuff they've been, they don't did, and they call themselves patching it over. And, years go by, nobody wants to talk about it, And I remember my sister, she used to always, when she was like in high school, and then even after she graduated from high school, she would always be talking about years. Like she would say, so when was I born again? And that I could tell, that made both of them, my mom and my stepfather, that made them very uncomfortable. Because they, don't nobody want you to talk about what they did. But see, if that had been me, I would have embraced that. That was a teachable moment right there. Let me tell y'all what happened. But see, that's the whole thing, y'all. When you have done wrong, what is that saying? We want to make wrong right, and then right the wrong stuff. And so when you have done something against somebody, you've hurt somebody, you stole, you really can't steal nobody from nobody, because if they left, they willingly left. Did nobody make them leave that relationship or that marriage? They wanted to leave for whatever reason. But like I said, a lot of times people don't want to address things. They're cheating. They're, they don't want to talk about it because they feel like they know that they were wrong, but they say, well, that was years ago, so, it's over and done with. But it's really not, because you never apologize to that person. You never, some people never thought they did anything wrong. Well, we were supposed to be together, But see, the Lord will never send you nobody else's husband, women, and men. He'll never send you somebody else's wife. That's just not how that works. And a lot of times we get that mixed up. Oh, it's just a blessing how we met. No, you think about how you met. You know, y'all were cheating. You were sleeping around. You know, and I want to share this because, like I said, I don't come on here with a, you know, judging and all that. I'm when I come on here, I'm talking about stuff I've had to deal with or done. But I didn't cheat while I was married, but I was cheating with someone else's boyfriend before I met my late husband back in the day. You know, there was a few times I did it. And I remember this one girl, young lady, she told me, she called me, she was Hispanic. Not that it matters, but I just want to share. But she said, she called me up on the phone because it was the girl, it was the guy's girlfriend's sister. And she called me and she said, and she was telling the truth too. She said, you would not have done that if my sister was black. That's what she said. And it had nothing to do with color. It had nothing to do with racism or nothing. But she was telling the truth. Because her sister, like I said, I want to say she was Hispanic, but she was very, you know, very quiet, very sweet lady, a young girl or whatever. But she was just basically saying, you knew that you could get away with that. You knew she wasn't going to do anything because she was telling me that because of her, how she was, her character or whatever. And nothing ever came of that. But y'all, I think back on that, I was just doing a bunch of crazy stuff. And he didn't care nothing about me. That guy, all he wanted was one thing. That's all he wanted. It was sex from me. And get on out of here before she come from work or whatever. And I forget what happened that particular time, but I just remember she found out that I had been over there. And I think they probably had been knowing he was cheating. But anyway, and even the girl, bestie or whatever, who I was hanging with, she was kind of looking at me like, okay, you getting a little out of hand now. But see, it was just the enemy. The enemy was after me, y'all. He wanted me to be beat up, and it probably could have been trying to take my life, you know, because I was doing a lot of foolish stuff. I really was. And, you know, I could have been beat up somewhere and left for dead, you know, all that crazy stuff that I was doing. But I thought I was invincible. You know, I liked the guy. I didn't care, you know. I knew he had a girlfriend. I knew he did. But, and still, I still was sliding around with him, cheating with him. And he was with me. But like I said, you know, I never did it while I was married, ever. God is my witness. But before I met my late husband, I did. And, you know, and when me and my late husband met, that's what happened. He was single for a while because the lady who he was, the woman that he was living with, they were living together and they was planning on getting married and all this, you know, it was like a beautiful, just a love story unfolding. It seemed to be. But he told me that she came home. I think he came home from work one day and it hurt him to his heart. It just hurt him so bad. And he said he came home one day from work and they were just talking. She was just really, you know, quiet. And he said, you know, he showed me the place, y'all. That's how the relationship we had. He took me to the city, you know, because they lived in Tennessee, but it's a different city. But he took me to where they used to live. I said, oh, those some nice, there's condos. And so, apartments or whatever. And so I said, oh, that was nice. And he showed me the one that they live, you know. That's just the type of relationship we had. And so, but this, of course, after we got married and stuff. And he said, he was wondering why she was so quiet. And said he said, what's going on with you? And said she just going through the, you know, the apartment, just quiet, you know, like he knew something was up, but he needed her to tell him. And she said, I don't want to be with you no more. And that's what the girlfriend said. So I don't want to be with you no more. Said, you know, I want you to move out. I want you to leave. And he said, what? You know, but come to find out, he said he figured, he put two and two together. I don't know if she was actually cheating, but she had her eyes on somebody else. And so she wanted him gone. And so he packed up his stuff and his things, and he moved back home with his parents. And so a little bit, not too long after that, that's when me and him met at a job. But I could tell whenever he would tell me about that, that really hurt him, because she was a beautiful woman, beautiful, and they went on trips together and stuff, and because at that time he was working at I think at a hotel, so he got to go on a lot of trips because he did real well in his job, so he got to go on a lot of he has a lot of perks on his job. So he was just showing me pictures and stuff, and I was like, wow. And I used to tell him all the time, I said, well, since she didn't want you no more, it just opened the door for me to walk on through. God was saving. I told him, I said, God was saving you for me. So he just kind of smiled. But the lady who I had brunch with this past Sunday, I was telling her, I said, I just have a really, that bothers me when I hear about people, maybe they got divorced because they were cheating on one another, or the spouse was cheating or whatever. And I said, because, my thing of it is, it's fun while you're doing it. It's fun when okay, let's meet up. Let's meet at this hotel. Let's meet out of town. And that was another, I don't come on here faking. I want to tell y'all the truth. Because this why I go so strong for Jesus. Because he's brought me through so much, y'all. Oh, I was on my way to a burning hell. But there was this guy that I met, I don't know what year this was, but it had been in the late 90s. And he, nice looking guy, he went, the school that he actually graduated from was like a school where the fine, what we thought was the fine guys, and the girls were popular, it was just a very whatever school. But now it ain't, it's not, I went to the slums now, but back then it was just a big thing. If somebody told you they graduated from their high school, you be like, oh, because they was in a nice, they came from a nice family, they had a nice, they parents had nice jobs, just kind of well-to-do, so to speak. But anyway, we met, and I can't remember how we met, but he wasn't a very, very handsome guy, but he was nice looking, light skinned, and kind of little I guess stout or whatever. Wasn't muscular, but he wasn't overweight or anything, but he was just kind of, I guess he was slightly muscular, I guess. But anyway, nice looking guy. And so he had a girlfriend. And so I found out a little bit after we ended up like sort of spending more and more time together, because he was telling me about he had children, this, that, and the other. And so y'all stay with me, because I'm going somewhere with this. And so I really liked him. He had a nice car, and he, I don't know, I just really liked him. I really did. And I remember he had told me, he said, I want to take you to Atlanta. And so y'all, I had been sheltered all my life, and this guy was showing me some attention. Like I said, I didn't have no dad in my life. My biological father wasn't in my life, so I was looking for a guy to pay me some attention. And so he did. And he said, I want to take you to Atlanta. We can go there and spend the weekend. And I want to say we left Friday night, I think, and we came back. I don't know if I think we just stayed one night. Yeah, I think we just stayed one night. I don't think we stayed till Sunday. If we did, I can't remember. But anyway, I know we stayed at least a night. And so, I had never been taken to Atlanta at that particular time. So I was so excited. I had told my bestie, I said, yeah. So I was getting my hair done that day. Just so excited, y'all. And I sort of kind of thought he had somebody, but I wasn't for sure, because he told me he had children. So, but he talked like a far away type of thing, like the mama of the children, was kind of not in the picture. And I didn't, it was out of sight, out of mind. I didn't care, because I liked him, and he had a nice car, he had a nice job, and, I don't know why I thought that was going to go anywhere. It didn't go nowhere. But anyway, I was getting my hair done that day. I remember that Friday at the salon. I was so happy. Had went and bought, because I was working too, of course, had me a car. But I had, been buying some stuff, just buying me a little perfume, and just like I was just going somewhere far off, but it was just Atlanta. But anyway, he had booked us a nice hotel, and it seemed to be fun, whatever. And so of course we had sex, of course, And then I remember I seemed like I remember he got a phone call, and it was her calling, and I can't remember what he told her where he was at, but he was lying. And so anyway, I sort of like something ain't right. You know how you know, like, I don't know what it is, but it's something ain't right. So he took me to a we may have stayed 2 nights. He took me to this really nice club. It was like a very nice club. It wasn't raunchy or nothing. It was nice. And so I had, like I said, I had bought outfits to wear and stuff. So it was a nice time, but it was under, I should not have done that. And, but anyway, we ended up, like I said, we had sex, and then we, ended up, he took me back home, brought me back home to Tennessee. And then after that, he would just call every now and then, because he had somebody. And so then he finally, we ended up talking, because I think I asked him and I wanted him to tell me. And he said, yeah, I got a girlfriend. And I was like, oh, okay. And like I said, the way in the beginning, the way he presented it, it was like they were not together. But then I later found out that they were. And come to find out, his girlfriend graduated with me from high school. We were in the same graduating class. And I was like, whoa. And y'all, that ain't even the biggest part of it. Now years later, because that was, like I said, that was in the 90s. Because after a while, he started not looking so good to me, and we quit. He quit calling, because I was like, and I think I was talking to my bestie, and she was like, yeah, you need to leave him alone, because whatever. Because me and her both, she did some investigating with me, and she was like, wait a minute, that's her, they go together, they got children together. And we just went on, we were just finding out stuff. And so I was like, wow, so he wasn't even entirely honest with me. And it wasn't all on him, it was me too, because I just wanted to have a good time, and I'm up here trying to high sign with somebody else man. That's what. And they had history, they had children together. And so anyway, what I'm trying to say, so fast forward, after I had gotten married, and I forget how far into the marriage, me and my late husband was, but how many years we had got, but it don't matter. But we was married. So come to find out, her family, because I didn't even put two and two together. Her family went to the church that we were going to, and it was her. I think it was her dad and the stepmom. I think that's what it was. And so anyway, they went to the church that we were going to. So I was always speaking to them and stuff. And then one Sunday, because I didn't know. And then one Sunday, this is how when you don't did stuff years ago, sometimes it'll follow you. And so you don't even know. And so anyway, like I said, I talked to everybody, at the church. Hey, how you doing? Hugging them and stuff. So then I was we was at church one Sunday, and I looked and I was like, is that who I think it is? And it was her. It was her. The guy who I was dating back in the 90s, it was her, the girlfriend. And so I was like, because I know her because I went to high school with her. And I was like, oh. So come to find out, her and the brother, of course, her brother I always was speaking to him. But so I don't know if he knew. She may have told him or whatever. That happened so many years ago. But I should not have done that to her, because I wouldn't want nobody to do that to me. But I saw an opportunity, and that's just type of person that I was then. That's who I was then. But God, He changed me. I'm no longer like that. But she saw me, and she kind of just looked at me or whatever. Because like I said, it had been so many years later. But I was like, wow, that was a blast from the past. And so, but I always, y'all, was speaking to her brother. So I don't know if he knew who I was or whatever. I don't think he did. But I was always speaking to him, always. Because his daughter, the girl, the guy who I was dating back in the day, the girlfriend, which was the sister to the brother who was going to the church, you know, she didn't come all the time. She just visited every now and then because her dad and her brother went to the church. But I would always speak to him. But his daughter, her brother, her niece was in the young women's group that I was over. And so it was just a big, you know, it was a big connection there. And I was like, wow, you know, you just never know who you around, or who you know, who kin to who or whatever. Because, you know, I hadn't thought any more about that. But I was like, wow, the past came back for me on that one. And I can't remember if I shared that. I think I did. I think I did share that with my late husband. I think I told him. Because I was like, but it wasn't because I was embarrassing, because I'm like, that's my past. You know, that happened years ago. I'm married now. But I think I did share it with him. But like I said, after that, after she only came like maybe 1 or 2 times to church. And you know, she didn't come anymore. But I was like, wow, that was a blast. But, you know, like I said, I wanted to say that, to say this, that, you know, a lot of times we think, you know, what we do is fun, you know, you know, well, I ain't hurt nobody, you know, I'm just having sex. I'm just enjoying myself. You know, he didn't want to be with her. You know, that's what I was, well, he didn't want to be with her. That's the excuse I could have made up. But, you know, that, I'm sure that hurt her. I know it did. You know, they got children together. They had children together. You know, here he was spending money that should have probably been spent on his children, or spent on her, or bills or whatever. Because I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they were living together. And so he lying to her and taking me into another state so he can have sex with me and have a good time and pretend, because he probably don't like what he's created or whatever. I mean, I'm not talking about his children. I'm talking about the relationship. And so, okay, let me just get away. Let me just do something to get my mind off of stuff. You know, I was being used, you know, if you will. So that's what I'm saying, y'all. You know, even though we was not married, they were not married, but it's just the fact that I was involved in it myself. And that's why I want to come on here and share that, because, you know, I shared that about my mom and my stepfather, what happened with them. But that's why that bothers me so much, because I did it. I once was doing somebody like that. You know, I cheated on with her man, you know, for my pleasure, you know. And, you know, he may not still like, well, we weren't on good terms, but it still ain't no excuse. It don't matter if they was married, if they was not married. That would have made it worse if they would you know, was married, but they had children together. And like I said, probably when she seen me at church, all them years later, you know, they're just like, ooh, there she is, you know, that man stealer, you know. And I really believe, y'all, the enemy was trying to was trying to create a stronghold in my life with that. Because see, my mom did it. She did it. So he's like, I'm gonna put this, and God allowed me to break so many generational curses, because that really ran rampant on my mom's side a lot. Women stealing, not stealing, but women cheating, and men cheating too. But he broke it off of me. He broke it off of my life, because like I said, I was so happy to be married to my late husband. I had a good man. He took care of his family, took care of his wife, his responsibilities, all the way up to the day he died. And after he died, he still was taking care of us from the grave. He made sure we was A-okay. So I'm thankful, y'all, how God have brought me such a mighty long way. And all them guys who never meant me no good, who used me for sex, I used them for sex. And, you know, I ain't ashamed to say it, you know, but it was not, you know, I like I said, I like to come on here and tell the truth. Because I can't be coming on here telling y'all stuff and acting like I ain't never did nothing. Because I've done a lot. But God, he's delivered me from all that mess. And like I said, that's why to this day, when I hear that, you know, it weeps me. It weeps my heart. Because, you know, I'm like, if that person don't, somebody needs to be the bigger person. And instead of me getting my hair done and packing and so happy and geeked about going to Atlanta, because all he was doing was using me. That's all he was doing. When he got through having sex with me in that nice hotel room, he went right on back to where he came from. And he did not leave her for me. No, he did not. And I believe that's what a lot of women, that's what a lot of men think, because what happens in the bedroom or in that bed, that's going to cause them to leave. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do leave. But like I said, there's a saying, y'all. It says, the same way you got them is the same way you're gonna end up losing them. So, you can, it'll go good for a while. It'll go good, and it may go good for forever. I don't know. But it's gonna always be based upon, people, if you got any type of conscience, you're gonna be like, you know what? That wasn't right what we did. And like I said, with my mom and my stepfather, to this day, they don't want to talk about that, But it was cheating. It was the result. Their marriage is a result of cheating, And they built a family from that, but it's a lie. It's a lie. And people say, well, they still together. They must love each other. Well, I'm sure they do. But what about the people that were hurt from that union? What about the people that were caught in the crossfire, that his children, his daughters, And the same with me, I'm going around here, flaunting and my hair done and he whining and dining me, and he got a girlfriend, back in Tennessee. He got children he need to be buying diapers for and milk, So I wasn't right either. I wasn't right either. And some women say, well, I ain't got no children, but you shouldn't even be with that guy. I should not have been nowhere. I should not been. When he approached me and when I found out that he had somebody, I should have said bye, get out my face. But instead, what was it? I was looking for love, and I wanted somebody to pay me some attention. And back then, I was into materialistic stuff. He had a nice ride. He had a nice car. He had a nice job. I was sold. I'm just gonna be honest. But and if I can be even more honest, I was looking for a way out. Cause I didn't have it so good growing up, and even then, I was it was just me. I had no children, but I was looking for can I get out of the ghetto? Can I get out of maybe I can get married and have a better life or something. But see, that was not the way out. It was not the way out. So y'all, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. I can't say it enough. And that's why no matter how I feel, I've said this before, but I have to come on here and tell how good God has been in my life. To me, I can't tell it, I can't tell it. Can't nobody tell it like I can tell it. Because I know what he's done for me, what he's doing, and what he's getting ready to do. And the best is still yet to come for me and my children. He's a keeper. He keeps us when we can't even keep ourselves. And all them times when I was out there doing everything I was big enough to do, he still had his holy hand on my life. And I thank him every day for it. I do. So as always, I pray you always enjoy listening to whatever I come on here and share, because it's all about Jesus. It ain't never about none of us. And I love you, but remember, Jesus loves you so much more. The best is still yet to come for you and for me. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. I love you, but remember, Jesus loves you so much more. I pray that you have been a blessing to somebody today. You are already blessed when Jesus woke you up this morning. Thank Jesus. Thank God for Jesus. And thank Jesus for his ultimate sacrifice. He's been so good to us, y'all. We got to give him all his honor, his glory, and his praise. Have a beautiful, blessed day off. Or you may not be off, but have a beautiful, blessed weekend. And I'll be back on here soon. And thank you all for listening, for subscribing, for commenting. I pray you always hear Jesus speaking through me and never me. And thank you all so much. This channel is growing, and it's all because of Jesus. It ain't because of me. He just using me to do what he will have for me to do for such a time as this. So thank you all for listening. I love you all, but Jesus loves you so much more. Bye-bye.